He asked me if I would date him, but all I could do was say no. I watched the disappointment in his eyes while my heart ached. If I got close to him, my father would hurt us both. Chapter 1. New Girl Riley. I quickly walked to my father, who was just walking in from work. "Riley, have you finished making my dinner?" my father asked in a sickly sweet voice. "Yes, father," is cooling on the dinner table. I timid his charcoal eyes as I replied. My father and I shared the same black hair, but I have blue eyes while he has black ones. "Good now, did you unpack your things into your room already?" he asked, eyeing me with disgust. "Yes, I have already finished unpacking my things." He walked into the kitchen to eat his dinner as I started towards the fridge to get his beer. Eating with a mouthful of food, he asked me, "Do you know that you are starting school tomorrow?" "Riley, yes, father, I know," I say while setting down his beer in front of him. Good. You know what to do, don't you?" I recited the rules he had set up for me. No making friends. Avoid all conversations directed to me. And don't tell anyone what's happening at home. Now just obey those rules and the school year will go smoothly. I hope. You won't want your dear father to look for another house now, do you, Riley? No trouble will happen this year, father. No trouble at all. When my dad finished his dinner and 3 cans of beer, he stumbled out of the kitchen and into his bedroom. Soon I could hear his loud snores filling the silent air. I sighed as got up to clear his plates and wash them. I climbed up the stairs to my peach-colored room and stripped off my clothes to put on a tank top and shorts, deciding to just go straight to bed. I crawled into bed and fell into unconsciousness. I woke up to the sound of my alarm clock ringing and quickly got out of bed to get my clothes for school. I jumped into the shower and scrubbed every inch of my body. Then I got out and dried myself. I put on my undergarments and threw a sweater and jeans over my petite body. I walked over to my bathroom mirror and stared at the blue-eyed girl who was looking right back at me. I lifted my hand and touched my cheek where there was a fading bruise that was made by my dad. I blinked, brushed my hair, quickly brushed my teeth and sprinted down the stairs. For breakfast I made myself toast because my daddy dearest already left for work, making sure to lock the house door when leaving. I speed-walked all the way to school. It took 10 minutes to reach my destination. I looked up from the ground to look at my new school, Kingston High. Signed. I pushed open the doors to a busy hallway. Ashton's POV Ashton. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Groaning in irritation, I turned away from my unbelievably annoying sister. Don't get me wrong, but I love her to bits, but times like this, I'm wondering if I'm making the right choices. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Shut up, Jessica. But Ashton, you're going to be late on your first day of school. At this, I jumped out of bed and ran to the shower, quickly drying myself. I picked out my clothes. Boxers, white V-neck tee, dark washed jeans, and black leather jacket. I walked down the stairs to find my brothers with their mates sitting around our usual table. I went up to my mom and placed a kiss on her cheek. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Good morning, Ashton. My mom beamed at me. I sat down, said morning to my siblings and their mates as well. Then Sophie, Brandon's mate, asked me, "Hey Ashton, have you found your mate yet?" I looked down at my food. No, I haven't. I then took out my headphones and started listening to music, ignoring the stares of the wolves around me. Soon, we were ordering into the cars along with some of the teen moles who lives in the pack house. Leaning my head against the side window watching trees zoom by, I blew out an inaudible sigh and closed my eyes. I was thinking of my mate. of how perfect she would be, how beautiful she'd be. Oh, how I could show her off to everyone. I snapped out of my daydream when I noticed we arrived at Kingston High. We parked at our reserved spot. As we got out, it was like those movies when everything slows down and everyone is watching you step out of the car. So yeah, sleigh deaths are popular in Kingston, but we aren't players. We like to wait for our mates to come before we do anything. Our car was soon swarmed by a whole bunch of the student body. Hey Ashton. I turned around and mentally groaned when I saw her. The girl wearing the extra miniskirt and a crop top. Erin. Her face was caked with makeup and her bleach blonde hair was cascading down her back. She looked up at me with blue eyes outlined with mascara and eyeliner. Hi Erin, I say, not sure what to do. I looked at my siblings for help, but they only looked at me with pity. Look Erin. I have to go. Nice seeing you again, as if bye. I rushed away from her and towards my brothers and their mates. Come on, let's go before she comes after me again. I ran into the school building with them chuckling behind me. People parted to the sides of the hallway for us to pass through, staring at us in awe. Then I smelled something delicious. Something that smelled like vanilla and coconut. I quickly looked around before finally finding the source. She was small and had her long dark hair tumbling down her back. She also had beautiful big blue eyes looking around like a lost puppy. Her skin was flawless, and though she was wearing a sweater and jeans, she still looked beautiful. I felt my wolf coming out, and something he said made me tingle with excitement. Mate. Chapter 2. My little mate Ashton's POV. I found her. I have finally found her. I started towards her but was stopped by Brandon. I growled at him to let me go, but he only shook his head and said, "Let her settle in first. Don't want to frighten her away on the first day now, do we?" My response was to glare at the ground, then look up to continue to stare at my mate. She seemed to have finally found what she was looking for and pushed open the office door, disappearing from my sight. I sighed and walked to my homeroom with Mr. Lopez. Riley's POV. I made my way through the crowds of people, having the feeling that I was being watched. I decided to ignore the feeling and push the office door. The secretary looked up from whatever she was doing and smiled. "Are you new here?" "Yeah, my name's Riley Thompson." "Okay, let me get your schedule, locker number, and a school map. Then you'll be good to go." She seems cheery. I thought bitterly. "Here you go." She handed me a few papers. "And your homeroom teacher is Mr. Lopez. I hope you make a lot of friends here." But she called out with a big smile as I walked off. I checked to see that my locker number is 122, and I took out the school map to try to navigate my way around. Remember, I said try. While I was walking, I crashed into something, making me fall on my butt and my papers to fly everywhere. Some people nearby snickered at my clumsiness and I blushed betrayed. "Are you okay?" I tilted my head backwards to see a beautiful dirty blonde-haired girl looking down at me with worry-filled brown eyes. "Yeah, I'm fine," I mumbled, starting to pick up my scattered papers. She squatted down and helped me pick up my papers. "My name is Carly. Are you new here? What's your name?" "Riley," I whispered. "Oof, a pretty name. What grade are you?" She bombarded me with question after question, but I just ignored her. Suddenly, my papers was snatched out of my hands. "Hey." Carly looked at my schedule and said, "You have math, PE, and art with me, but not the same homeroom teacher. Come on, I'll show you where your locker is." We walked down the hall and finally reached my new locker. I quickly spun the lock and stuffed my things in. I barely got to close my locker when I was yanked away by my arm. For a small girl, Carly really had a lot of strength. We pulled to a stop in front of a door and she turned to me saying, "Nice meeting you, Riley. I'll see you in art." And she sped off down the hallway. She's such a weird girl. I turned to the door and took a deep breath before I pushed the door open. I peeked inside, looking around, and stepped in, closing the door quietly behind me. I walked up to the teacher's desk and cleared my throat to get his attention. His head snapped up and he said, "Name, Riley Thompson." He nodded and gestured around the class. "Sit wherever you want." I silently nodded and went to the back of the room. As I was unpacking, I saw a brunette boy get up from his desk, collected his things and set them on the desk next to mine. He turned to look at me. cleared his throat and held up a hand for me to shake high. "The name's Ashton. And you are?" I didn't bother taking his hand, so he dropped it. I gave Ashton the same flat answer I gave Carly. "Riley." Soon we were surrounded with awkward silence, and I took the time to look at his outfit. He was wearing a white V-neck tee with a leather jacket over top and some dark washed jeans paired up with a beat-up black Converse. He had light brown hair swept to the side and his gorgeous light blue eyes seemed to go on forever. Then he suddenly blurted out, "You're so beautiful." I blushed a bright red and ducked my head down to let my hair act like a curtain covering my face. I heard Mr. Lopez call for everyone to settle down and sit in their own seats. Then he looked to me and said, "Today we have a new student. Her name is Riley. Riley, can you please stand up?" Everyone turned around in their desk to stare at me in curiosity as I shyly stood up. Mr. Lopez continued as though he did not notice how uncomfortable I was. "Please make her feel welcomed. Are there any questions for her? Nicole, have you had a boy kiss you?" I looked away before shaking my head. Mr. Lopez gave Nicole an irritated look. Ashton raised his hand. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. If you could, would you date me?" I heard the class go oh, and shrugged. "Good enough answer for me, Mr. Lopez cleared his throat awkwardly. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You can sit down now, Riley." "Thank you." I took my seat as my first class of the day started. Ashton's POV. I found quite a lot of good information on what I would need to know about my mate and am happy and surprised that she has not had her kiss. During the whole class, I have been sneaking glances at Riley. Of course, when she was not looking. When class ended, I quickly packed my things into my bag and waited for Riley to come out. I needed to see if she was in my class next, which is art. Then I see her walking out of class and sped up to her pace. For a small girl, she can walk really fast. So about the question I asked earlier, I trailed off, mentioning the question of dating me. "I'm fine," she said flatly, walking away. I huffed but continued following her. "With your next class?" "Art, me too. Come on, let's go." We walked into the classroom and see Carly, Jake, and Austin. Carly was waving wildly at us to come over, so we obeyed and went over. "Hey, Riley." Riley winced at how loud she was being and muttered a weak hey, pointing to Jake. Carly said, "This is Jake, my boyfriend." She pointed to Austin, "And this is his twin. And I see you have already met Ashton," she said, wiggling her eyebrows up and down at us suggestively. At this, Riley blushed and looked at her shoes like it's the most interesting thing in the world. "She is just too cute." Riley was silent during the whole period and was sketching while our teacher droned on and on about something to do with abstract art. I did notice that she was slowly scooting away from me. At this, I frowned and pulled her chair back beside me. She jumped and glared at me before facing the front. After class, she was the first person to get out of the classroom. I sighed and began packing my bag. From beside me, Austin asked, "How's your mate doing?" I slumped onto the desk and heaved a heavy sigh. "You'd take that as a bad sign, right?" I nodded before heading to socials where I knew Sarah would be. I was also pleased to find Riley quietly sitting at the back. Enthusiasm, and my first reaction was to sit next to her. And I did. "Hey," I greeted her again, motioning at the seat next to her. "Can I sit here?" She didn't reply but just stared out the window. "I'll take that as a yes." I sat on the chair before Mr. Daniels started the class. Let me tell you, it was boring. When the bell finally rang, I literally ran out, temporarily forgetting someone until Sarah called me, causing me to turn around to look at her. "I think you forgot someone." I thought of who I might have forgotten, then my wolf growled at me saying, "Our mate. Stupid." My eyes widened. Oh, I'm such a terrible mate," I said, whispering the last part to myself before running back to class. But by the time I reached the class, she was there. I looked around wildly before my eyes landed on some of the slow students looking at me like I have lost my mind. I ignored them and went back to the cafeteria. I sat with my brothers and their mates. Seeing them happy with their mates made me determined to get Riley to fall for me. And soon, Chapter 3, Alone Ashton's POV. As I ate, I kept an eye out for Riley, but she was not in the cafeteria. I wonder where she is. I got up earning a few curious looks from my pack mates. Where are you going? I turned to Sophie. To look for my mate. Oh, I bet she's a really nice person. Let's go hunt for her. Anyone want to come with? Brandon stood up. In coming. I knew he only went where his mate went. Carly got up and pulled Jake up with her. We're coming too. But Jake groaned, complaining about having to walk where he had just made himself comfortable. Shut up, Jake, Carly chided. I know you need to stretch those legs of yours anyways. But Jake still grumbled under his breath. We all looked at the one other couple left. Austin and Sarah are. I was cut off by Sarah. Yeah, sure. Don't feel like staying here anymore. With that, we walked off to find my mate. Riley's POV. I shouldn't have talked to him or anyone. If father found out, to be in big trouble. Ugh, I'll have to start avoiding them before they get too close to me. I quickly got my lunch and walked outside without anyone seeing me. I went to the back of the school where no one goes. I entered the forest but did not go far enough to not hear the bell or close enough to be seen. I looked for a sturdy-looking tree to climb and instead found a stream up ahead. I cautiously walked towards it and leaned over to see the crystal-clear water reflect my image. It showed me a girl with black hair and blue eyes. But that's what people see. They can't see the deep, dark secrets of my past. They only see an ordinary girl. Not the bruised and battered girl who lost her mother and brother. Just another girl who has no care in the world. I sighed and sat down on the lush green grass, looking at nowhere in particular. Suddenly, I heard the rustling of leaves behind me and quickly jumped up and backed away from the bushes. The sounds become louder and then out steps. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Along with a smiley Carly, who was hand-in-hand with Jake. Sarah and Austin came out too, and another couple came after them. They look probably a year older than me. Ashton looked at me. Were you here the whole time? Not sure why he asked me why. He opened his mouth to say something, but the unknown blonde girl beat him to it. He was looking everywhere for you. He was so worried that something had happened to you. But of course I had to help him. How? You may ask. I just ask people if they've seen you, or if they are those kinds of people who want you to pay them to get the info. You just threaten them or use one of these boys to help. In threatening them, of course. In Sophie, by the way. She took a deep breath when she finished her miniature speech and beamed at me. I stared at her oddly and blinked. Then her words sank in. Ashton was looking for me. I asked, bewildered, and turned to Ashton, who was looking at the ground, embarrassed. He was worrying for no reason and almost sent a search party for you. I raised an eyebrow at Ashton. People here are so weird. This time the unknown guy spoke up. In Brandon, Sophie is my girlfriend. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I forgot to mention that too. Sophie exclaimed. Don't want her to call you unknown guy, huh? Wow, she is good. This time Carly spoke up. What are you doing out here? Don't you have friends? You can join us if you want. It's okay, Carly. I don't want to be a bother to you guys in any ways. I like to be alone. I tell her, giving her a small smile. Carly frowned. Okay, see you and Key. Then she started to walk away with Jake in tow. I better get going, I said, starting towards the way Carly and Jake went. Don't want to be late for class. I'll walk you to class since I've got next to Ashton said, standing up. I can walk there by myself. I rushed it out before running off to my locker. I quickly got all my things and how I walked all the way to class. I looked for an empty seat at the back of the class and was pleased to see a seat empty, and the seat was next to the window which showed the forest view. I let a small smile slip onto my face as I walked to the desk in the corner. While on my way to the desk, Someone stuck their foot out and I tripped over it, resulting my books to scatter everywhere. All around me, people burst out laughing. But I heard a sickly sweet voice say to me, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there." I turned around and almost laughed when I saw the most hideous thing I've ever on. Fortunately, I managed to keep my face neutral. She had bleached blonde hair and eyes loaded with eyeliner. She probably couldn't keep her eyes open for long. She sneered at me and on a high-pitched voice said, "What were you going? Loser." I silently nodded and picked my things up. I could not say a comeback because if she reported me to the teacher or principal, they might tell my father and I could get a beating. So I go the easier way, ignoring people. "Sorry," I mumbled. She scoffed and said, "Stay out of my way next time." With that she left, flipping her hair in the process. "Hey Riley, what were you doing on the ground?" Ashton looked down at me with a smile on his face. "I just happened to love sitting on floors," I stammered. He laughed and man, that laugh was heavenly. "For this class, you'll have to sit in a chair. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, parts out thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm," he said amused. I blushed and got up. I walked to the back of the class and sat in a window seat. Thank the God above, the seat next to mine is already taken. And if Ashton sat next to me, the glares airs of me might intensify and I might melt into a puddle of goo. Through the period, I was noticing a lot of people giving me glances and glares from Erin. I began feeling uncomfortable and started to shift on my chair. When the bell rang, I was the first one at the class. The rest of the day passed in a blur as I avoided all popular groups: Ashton, Carly, Jake. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Brandon, Sophie, Erin and her followers, and tried to pay attention in the classes. When I was closing my locker, I saw Ashton walking towards me. He stopped beside me and said a quick hey. He seemed to want to say something else, but was too nervous. I stared at him and took the time to memorize his features. Thick eyebrows, a little stubble, straight nose. I also noticed some smaller details like the light splashes of freckles on his cheeks. I opened my mouth to say something but he beat me to it. "If you could, would you maybe want to hang out together sometime?" I stared at him. Was he kidding? The look he was giving me said he meant it. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Yee, no I can't. There will be my dad to be holding me back. Okay. Listen Ashton, I can't. I'm not good with relationships. And I don't want to be in one. Sorry to disappoint but I don't have time. I hope that was too harsh on him. My heart was crushed when I saw his fill with sadness. Okay. I guess another time. When you're free. Yeah okay maybe another time. I say softly wincing. Maybe by that time he would have already found another girl. At that statement, my blood began to boil. Out of rage towards the yet unknown girl. "See you around?" he asked, a little hope still in his eyes. "Yeah, see you around," I say quickly, not wanting to destroy all of his hopes. He gave me a small smile and walked away. I sighed in relief and saw Erin now heading my way before I broke into a sprint. Out the school doors and down the road that led to my house. Chapter 4: Good Luck, Riley's POV. I quietly opened my house door and stepped inside. Father was at work, so I was all alone. Usually I would go for a walk in the forest, but I had to start making my father's dinner. I went into the kitchen and gathered the ingredients for the pasta I was making. As I was setting up the ingredients, I hummed my favorite song, Forever Young. By the time I finished, my father came through the door. "Riley." I rushed to his side and took his jacket. "Hello, Father. You must be very tired from working all day." Yes. Where's my dinner?" He pushed me towards the kitchen. "It's on the table." "Father," I say while pulling out his chair for him to sit on. "Come over here, Riley," he said gently after he finished his dinner. But I was still cautious when walking to him. He stood up and quickly walked to me. He bent down and placed a kiss on my head and inhaled. Soon I was on the ground holding my cheek from where he had just slapped me. He loomed over my small whimpering figure and said, "You have been with people at school, haven't you?" He didn't give me time to reply as he said, "I know you have, Riley. I have people. Or spies, should I say. They are watching you at school, at home or wherever you are. They will always be updating me to what's happening at school. So I want you to get rid of your friends before I do." With that, he left me alone on the floor thinking of a way to get rid of my friends before harm comes to them. I heard the door slam and got off the floor. I touched the spot he had hit me and winced. It was going to leave a mark for tomorrow. I cleaned all the dishes on the table before going to my room and start my homework. Knowing my father was going to be out for the whole night drinking, I quickly covered my already forming bruise and put on my coat and shoes to go for a quick walk around the block. I closed the door and started to walk to where I thought was the park. I soon faced a wall of trees that led to the forest. Deciding I had time to explore the forest, I stepped past the border of trees. Loving how everything was so peaceful and calm, I walked over and under fallen trees and ended in front of a meadow full of wildflowers. There were bees and butterflies fluttering over the purple, yellow, pink and red flowers. I walked towards the middle of the meadow and inhaled lightly. I sat on the soft dewy grass and started to think. About what? You may ask. About everything that happened recently. About the spies. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Aaron, my father, my dead mom and brother. I paused at that thought and closed my eyes at the number of what-ifs I could have done to save them. If only I knew. If only I waited. If only I didn't call her. If only I stayed. If only I listened. If only I called for help. If only. I sighed and opened my eyes silently crying. Then I started having the hiccups and a runny nose. Whilst in my pity feast, I didn't notice Ashton come out of the forest and sit next to me. When I finally noticed him, I let out a tiny shriek and scuttled away from him. He gazed up at the stars that had came out and said, "Why are you crying?" I quickly wiped away my tears and looked away, embarrassed that he saw me cry. I felt an urge to trust him, but I knew I shouldn't. I can't let him be involved in my world. "I miss my brother," I said before I could stop myself. "Why is he in the army or something now?" Yes, not in the army or something. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. My voice faltered, not able to continue. Ashton looked away. "Yeah, oh is the right word," I mumbled. "May I ask what your brother's name is?" Ashton asked, hesitantly. Spencer Thompson," I hollowly replied. Ashton only nodded and silence enveloped us. I looked in the sky and cursed myself for not paying attention to the time because my father would be home soon. I abruptly stood and said a quick bye to Ashton before dashing off back home before he got a chance to say anything. Taking a quick shower and changed into my pajamas before jumping into bed and falling in endless sleep. Ashton's POV felt determined to get Riley to go on a date with me. As I met with my group, they asked me how Riley responded to me asking her out. I growled deep in my throat, a warning to back off, but they pushed on. She rejected me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She doesn't have time for a relationship. Now drop it. I snapped at them. Carly stepped forward. "You'll get her." She gave me an encouraging smile. I let a weak smile slip onto my face. Then Brandon broke the silence. "Come on. Don't want to stay here all day now, do we?" We all shuffled to the 2 cars and got in. Brandon was driving and Sophie was sitting in the passenger seat. Austin and Sarah are manning the other car with Jake and Carly in the back. As we drove back, I noticed the gazes I was getting from both Brandon and Sophie. "What do you want?" I asked, sighing. They snapped their eyes back on the road. "Nothing," Sophie said quickly. "Too quick." I nodded, unbelieving. "Why do you think she is rejecting you?" Sophie blurted the question. "I honestly don't know," I groaned. "Mates are so confusing." "You can say that again," Brandon agreed, causing Sophie to slap his shoulder. You're supposed to be helping him, not talking about how mates are confusing. Don't make me do the silent treatment on you again, she warned with narrowed eyes. Brandon whimpered. You see, once upon a time there was Brandon and Sophie. Let's just say that they got into a fight and Sophie ignored Brandon for a whole 3 days. I still have no idea how she handles that, and he was a mess. So he got on his hands and knees and begged her to forgive him. Eventually, they got back to become the soon-to-be Alpha and Luna couple. We reached the pack house and I quickly showered and did my homework before deciding to go for a run. I went into the forest and stripped my clothes. I closed my eyes and shifted, the familiar cracking of my bones rearranging. Once I opened my eyes, I was a black wolf, my sleek fur shining in the sunlight as I took off into the welcoming forest. I ran for hours, letting all my energy go to my paws as I sprinted around my pack's territory. I halted when a delicious smell reached my nose. I took a deep breath and jogged towards it. I soon came across a clearing where I saw Eiley sitting in the middle, crying. I felt a pang of pain to see my mate cry, so I quickly shifted and got clothes from the roots of a tree. The pack keeps clothes on the trees just in case we meet a stray rogue or something that involves us needing clothes. I stepped out and went to sit by her. She let out a tiny shriek and moved away from me, but I just continued to look at the sky where the stars were coming out. Why are you crying? She did not answer but quickly wiped her tears and looked away. We were silent for a while before she said, I miss my brother. Why? Is he in the army or something? No, HES, not in the army or something. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Dead. That was what she was gonna say. May I ask what your brother's name is? I didn't want to push her too far, but I have no idea why I was interested in knowing her brother's name. Spencer. Spencer Thompson. She sounded so hopeless that I felt like holding her and never let go. But I could only nod and let the weird silence cover us. Again, I heard a curse and saw Eiley quickly stand. I frowned and was about to ask her what was wrong. But as I opened my mouth, she cut me off. Sorry, but I have to go before my father comes home. See you at school. With that, she ran off, leaving me speechless. I sighed and got off the ground, shifting and running back to the pack house. While running, I thought about her brother. Does that mean she only has her dad? Or maybe, no, she couldn't be adopted. I saw the pack house's lights and quickly put on some basketball shorts after I shifted. I got in feeling better, talking to Riley and even smiled at Brandon, which with the sudden mood swing Brandon chuckled. Talked to Riley, I chirped. Oh, wait. To our agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Youth or Eiley? In the woods. What is she doing there? He said curiously. Yes. And I don't know, but she was there. I answered all his questions. What are we doing? 20 questions. Jake asked, coming in the kitchen along with Carly. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Austin and Sophie, who went to Brandon to give him a kiss to his cheek. Ashton met his mate when going for a run. Brandon answered for me. What? Ashton found his mate. I groaned as my mom and dad came into the kitchen as well. Yes, I did today. Well, good for you, son. It's about time, my dad said gruffly. So all we need to do is find my mate. Right. Then here comes Jessica. She stuck her head into the kitchen and skipped to us. Hey, Mom. Look at what I taught myself to do. Before my mom could stop her from doing anything, Carly's feet were not touching the ground. Ever since I could remember, Jessica has been born with power somehow. Neither of my parents has told us what had happened to her. Carly let out a small shriek of surprise as she floated off of the ground. Carly was not screaming her head off because Jess has always been trying out her techniques on Carly. So Carly is the test subject. But Jake will always have to be under Carly, in case Jessica can't hold on anymore. Although Carly enjoys being in the air, Jake despises it. He is always worried that Jessica might drop her when he is not around. Jake might be fun to be around at times, but he is always serious when it comes to his mate. Such a worrywart. Jack immediately went under Carly, arms open, threatening Jessica. If she drops Carly, he would skin her wolf once she shifts. Stop worrying, Jake. You need to loosen up, Carly said from above, but all she got was a growl from Jake. Okay, Carly. Now I'm going to drop you on Jake, okay? Jessica said. Without letting Carly answer, she dropped Carly into Jake's arms. Jake sighed in relief and stuffed his face into her neck, murmuring things to her. Carly just rolled her eyes at whatever he said and replied, "You wish. Now stop worrying. And put me down." Jake went but still set her down. Mom turned to me. "So about that mate of yours. Tell me about her." Knowing what my mom wanted to know. To my agent extraordinaire, Myelin Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Chess human. Mom. My mother's face immediately turned into an excited one. Mom has always wanted to be related to a werewolf for some reason. To my agent extraordinaire, Myelin Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. When is she coming? Have you told her? She was literally bouncing up and down now. I haven't told her yet, Mom. I just met her today. Remember? I rolled my eyes. This is so exciting. I'm gonna have a daughter-in-law that is human. Make sure you speed up the mating process too. My grandchildren might be half human. Half wolf. I can't wait. My mother kept bubbling things about her grandchildren. Those who were around me were giving me amused looks, but I just smiled at my mom's behavior. Okay, when she warms up to me, they'll bring her home. She squealed in excitement and skipped off with my father trailing behind. Not before he gave a slap on my back in congratulation. Good luck with bringing her home. To my agent extraordinaire, Myelin Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Austin said, walking away hand in hand with Sarah. Then Jessica suddenly appeared beside me. Do I get to meet her? My face softened at her question. To my agent extraordinaire, Myelin Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Why not? Everyone in the pack has a soft spot for the angelic Jessica, because she is the Alpha's only daughter. Austin, when is she coming? Jess asked, excited at the thought of meeting my mate. I have no idea. You'll ask her. To my agent extraordinaire, Myelin Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I can't wait. She ran off to her room. So how are you going to get her to visit? Carly said from behind me. Could you? Maybe try and persuade her. I mean, you don't have to, but I'd appreciate that, I said, giving her a hopeful smile. She, in exchange, have me a bright one. Sure. I would love to get to know her better. What do you think, Jake? Sure. We can invite her to sit with us and lunch. Keep her company in classes. Protect her from Aaron and her followers. Especially Aaron. Jake listed all the things to do to help. How did I get such a great family? Chapter 5, Promise. Riley's POV. I cracked my eyes open to look at the time and saw I still had an hour to get ready, so I can take my time in the shower. And that is exactly what I did. I took time scrubbing every inch of my body. When I was done, I wrapped my towel around my body and stepped out of my bathroom. I walked over to my closet and threw on a big sweater and yoga pants. I proceeded to tie my hair in a sloppy ponytail, deciding I looked good enough to not be noticed. I dragged my feet to the kitchen, where my dad was. What are you doing home? Confused. Well, since my daughter has been a naughty girl and making friends, I'll have to drive you to school. If I see any of them talk to you, you'll be in trouble. Big trouble. My face paled. Oh, okay. Now eat your breakfast. Girl, I don't have time. He rushed me to get my breakfast done. So I decided to skip breakfast, so he won't be screaming at me to hurry. We got in the car and drove off. Actually, my dad flew off down the road, narrowly missing other cars. I gripped the edge of my seat all the way to school, afraid that if I let go. We skidded to a stop right in front of the school. I surveyed the front of the school inside in relief when I didn't see Ashton or anyone in his group. I said a quick bye to my dad and ran to the front of the school, nearly tripping on my feet. I checked to see if my father was gone, but he was slowly driving away. That's when I saw them in all their glory. My eyes widened when Ashton and my eyes connected. He gave me a crooked smile and started to walk towards me, not noticing my dad watching him closely. I looked at my dad, then at Ashton, then at the school doors. I turned on my heels and ran to the doors, yanking them open and running to my locker. I stuffed my things into the small locker before getting my books and rushing to my homeroom. But unfortunately, I ran straight into a wall. But it was moving, and soft. I looked up and saw Ashton looking at me with an amused smile on his face. "What's the rush?" I blushed, saying a quiet sorry and then going off. But before I got any more than a few steps, he took my hand, making me stop, my heart beating fast at the simple contact. He leaned down until his breath tickled my ear, my eyes wide and my heart beating faster. If he doesn't stop, I might have a heart attack. Then he whispered into my ear, "See you in class, Riley." Wow, his voice. So sexy. The way my name rolled off his tongue easily. Snap out of it, Riley. If father found out. Or if the spies. "You have to go to class now." I jerked away, giving him a nervous smile before resuming my run to class, looking out for an audience that might have saw the Ashton move. Someone did. That someone was Erin. I burst into the classroom and made my way to the back seats. I sat in the corner trying to make myself invisible, but with no such luck, because when Ashton sauntered in, he instantly strolled to my desk. "Why do you run all the way to class? You could have walked." "Why no," he drawled out. I shrugged before gazing at the window, trying to spot the spies. Oh, how I just wished to be a normal teenage girl whose worries are an image in boys. I had to be the unluckiest child ever. Ashton waved his hand in front of my face, causing me to snap out of my daze. I gave him an irritated look. "Leave me alone." Ashton rolled his eyes. "No, I don't think you want me to leave you alone. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing clichés enthusiasm." I don't really want him to leave. I bit my lip and looked at him. He had a sexy smirk on his face as he stared at me. Wait. What? Did I just say his smirk is? "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing clichés enthusiasm." I am going crazy. I can't have a boyfriend, so I shouldn't let him on. Unless he's a player. Unless to him I'm just a game. A dead Warner. Okay. Riley, you need to get a hold on everything. So first, get rid of this boy. It's obvious that you have a crush on him, so that attraction must not exist. I found my voice. Just leave me alone. I don't need any friends. Especially you. I don't like you. I saw his face shape into a confused and sad one. I had to stop myself from reaching out to hug him. "WH, what do you mean? Please just leave. I mean, I don't want your company. Don't need it," I said bitterly, looking away, not wanting to see the look of hurt and sadness. "Riley Thompson, please come to the office. Riley Thompson, please come to the office." "Thank you." The intercom boomed through the noisy halls of school. I got this as a chance to escape, so I speedily packed my things and ran to the office. What I saw confused me. My father was here. But why? "What are you doing here?" I asked timidly. "Come with me, Riley," he said, ignoring my question. We headed for the forest. I was suddenly afraid of what he might do to me, but I still followed him. What are we doing, father?" "WH, where are we going?" I stuttered. "Shut up, Riley," father snapped, causing my mouth to shut quickly. We walked for about 10 more minutes before he swiftly turned around and punched me. I fell down with a cry of shock. I looked up at him in fear. "WH, what did I do?" Afraid of what he might do to me. "You, my little slut, still have that boy hanging around you. Didn't I tell you that I have spies watching? Stupid girl. What did you do to make him hang around you anyways? You're Ian, nobody. Didn't you know that already, or do I need to remind you? He snarled at me. I know, I am a nobody. I have no idea what made him want to hang out with me. I swear. He just started hanging around me on the first day of school. I said quickly, afraid he might hit me. I don't care. You get rid of him before he starts getting curious. He could find out and we'd have to move. Again. Now go back to school. Before I got far, Father called for me, making me stop. Oh, and Riley, you got a little bit of bruise on your face. He brushed past me, chuckling. I touched my cheek and winced at the pain it caused. I rushed into the school building and into the girls' bathroom. I turned and saw a horrifying bruise on my cheek. It was a dark shade of blue and black. I gasped and quickly took my hair out of its ponytail. I combed my fingers through it, making sure to cover my cheek with the bruise. I peeked out of the bathroom to check if the coast was clear. I ran to my locker and fumbled with it before being able to open it. I looked around wildly for my concealer before I finally found it. I let out a squeak of victory and slammed my locker shut. I was headed back to the bathroom when I heard my name being called. I froze and peeked over my shoulder. My eyes widened when I saw Ashton jogging after me. I sped up my pace. With Ashton calling behind me, I slammed the bathroom door shut, locking it. I went back to the mirror and started to apply the concealer on the bruise. Wincing at the pain, I continued rubbing the skin, checking my now smooth-looking skin. I gave a nod of approval. I picked my bag up and unlocked the door. All of a sudden, Ashton was in front of me. I yelped and jumped back. Oh, Ashton, you do know that this is the girls' bathroom? He blinked and blushed, saying, Yeah, I know. I was wondering if you were okay. Now it was I who blinked. Me, he blushed a brighter shade of pink. I turned a light shade of pink and looked away. Well, I'm fine. I don't need anyone to care about me. I can take care of myself. I say, walking past him and back to class. I walked into class and every pair of eyes snapped to me. I blushed at the attention. Sorry I'm late. My father came to tell me something, Mr. Lucas nodded and gestured for me to sit in my seat. As I slowly made my way to my seat, Ashton opened the door and slumped his way to his seat. I all of a sudden felt bad for being rude. All through the classes, it ignored me, making me feel guilty. I mean, he was concerned about me. No one ever gave me a second glance. The bell rang, sickening. I made my way out of school back to the river I found yesterday. I sat on the grass and stared at the sparkling river. Should I apologize to Ashton? But if he keeps ignoring me, Father won't hit me as much and he would find someone else to bother. Yeah, I think I should ignore him. That would be best for everyone. I got up and headed back to school. I strolled into Mrs. Black's English class and sat at my usual seating spots. At the back, the day passed with nothing eventful except for Jake getting into a fight because some dude insulted Carly. Other than that, everything was fine. After school, when I opened the school doors, Ashton called me over to what I assumed was his car. I looked around and saw the entire student body watching me. I slowly walked there looking nervous. I stood in front of him and gave him a questioning look. Okay, I know you don't want me to bother you, but please can we at least be friends? I have to reject it. I can't be friends with him. Curse you, Dad. I took in a deep breath and said, Nutty look he had on his face was absolutely heartbreaking. WH, what? I closed my eyes, not wanting to look at him. You heard me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Thoughts out thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I turned and walked away quickly. Now everyone will definitely hate me. I ran into my house and up to my room, where I threw myself on my bed. I decided that I could sleep for a while before I'll have to wait to prepare dinner. So I took a nap. Ashton's POV. When we reached home, I got off the car and went upstairs without saying anything. Hey Ashton. A smiling Jessica came into my view. I walked past her and opened my door. I made sure to close it then, proceeding to jump on my bed. Why would she reject me? What would make her do that? Why couldn't we at least be friends? Isn't there the mate Paul? Could she already be seeing someone? With that thought in my head, I let out a harsh growl. For the rest of the day, I stayed in my room doing nothing. I stared at the ceiling with an emotional face. There was a knock on my door, but I did not look at the person. I heard what happened, Jessica said. She then walked over to my bed. She then laid down next to me, staring at the ceiling as well. We were silent for a while before she asked, "How were you gonna get her back?" I shook my head. "I don't know. I just don't know." She sighed and looked back at the ceiling. "You'll have to get her back, you know. If not, you'll be like those depressed werewolves who lost their mates. I don't want a brother who is sad all the time. That won't be fun at all." She cried. "Please, it would make you and everyone happier. She would live with us. Don't you want that?" "Well, yeah. But," I started. "But nothing. You'll continue chasing her even if she keeps rejecting you. Promise." She held up her pinky, hooking my pinky with her smaller one. "Promise." Chapter 6. Bodyguard Riley's POV. I opened my eyes and yawned loudly. I looked to my bedstand and saw that father would be home soon. I got off my bed and ran down to the kitchen, quickly ordering Chinese food, while setting the table for father. At the moment I set his rice down, Dad barged into the kitchen announcing his presence. "Where's the food?" he demanded, his eyes searching for the sign of food. He sat on the dining chair and stuffed his face with food. "So did you get rid of the boy?" He eyed me suspiciously. I gulped and got out. "I am sure he won't bother me anymore." He nodded and went back on chowing down his food. I went up to my room and started to do my homework. "Riley." I flew down the steps and into the kitchen, only to stop in front of my dad. "Come here, Riley," he said sternly. I walked over slowly and stopped in front of him. He leaned down to my eye level and smirked. "How's your bruise, Riley? Is it healing any better?" "Better go check. It been under all that concealer." Whilst talking, he poked the bruise. I had to make my hands into fists to keep me from screaming at him. I stayed rooted on the spot with him staring at me, with an eyebrow raised. "What are you still doing here? I told you to go check it." He punched me in the gut and I doubled over, gasping. There might be another bruise there as well. He walked off chuckling. "And Riley, I'll be bringing you to see my buddies tomorrow night." I stared after him. His buddies are probably a bunch of horny men. Walking to my room, I went into my bathroom to wash my face, and whilst washing, I thought about how my father was before everything happened. Flashback. A little girl with pigtails and her brother were running around the grassy field, screaming and laughing. Their parents were chuckling behind them. Then the little girl stopped, suddenly causing her brother to crash into her, making them fall over. Then, they rolled around on the grass, both in a giggling mess. The 11-year-old boy got up and held his hand out for his sister. "Hikanda, you okay?" She took his hand and got up, giving him a bright smile. Her mother walked up to them and said gently, "Riley, Spencer, come, let's head home. It's almost past your bedtime." Riley had a disappointed look on her face when she heard what her mother said now. Her mother nodded. "We'll grab some ice cream on the way home. How about that?" Riley's face lit up immediately. "Yes, quick. Let's go before they close." "Come on." To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Riley began to drag Spencer away from the field towards her dad. "Hey, Daddy, we are going to get ice cream." "What one?" Her father looked at her softly. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. "Riley, I'm already full. Can I have yours?" "You know, kinda. If you eat a lot of ice cream, you'd get really round and fat," Spencer said in a voice full of knowledge. Riley looked down, lifted her shirt, patted her slightly round stomach and grinned. "He's getting fat, Rom." Dumbfounded, Spencer started laughing loudly. "There is nothing wrong with being fat, Riley." Her dad said walking next to her. Amused. But if you were, you'd be my fat princess. Riley smiled. Can we get ice cream now? Her mother appeared beside her instantly, grabbing her hand. Yes, yes. Let's go. Flashback. I got ready to go to bed and took a quick look outside my window to see if there were any spies outside, watching me. Nervous that I saw none, I closed my window and went to bed. It was dark. Too dark to see anything. I roamed around trying to find any light. I heard a voice. Help me. My head whipped around to find the source. Rai, help me. It continued its screaming. I've heard that voice before. It's so familiar, but I can't remember where I heard it. Help me, please. Riley. My voice was shaky. Who are you? Riley. Run quick. You'll distract them. Go get help. The same voice echoed all around me. Then, it clicked. Spencer. My eyes widened as I started to scream for him. Spencer. Spencer, where are you? Don't go. Don't leave me. Spencer. His voice faded to a whisper then. Nothing. Then, something appeared in front of me. I squinted to look at it closely. A silhouette. Judging from the figure, it was a man. A tall, muscular man. He walked to me, and as he got closer, I could see his face. He had messy dark brown hair and is built well, with broad shoulders, strong jaw, and big arms. He was terrifying. His eyes were an icy blue color that seemed to look into your soul. But what made me freeze is the scar about 1.5 inches long, running in a jagged line from the corner of his left eye to his cheekbone. Then he seemed to have heard what I was thinking and looked at me sinisterly, smirked and faded away. I woke up with a startled cry and saw that I was an hour earlier than what I'd usually wake up to, though I decided to lay there and stare at the ceiling thinking of my dream. Then is a gang leader. Spencer saved me from getting raped by him. If I hadn't screamed for help, Spencer wouldn't have heard. So Spencer came to my rescue and told me to run. But I never saw Spencer again. Yes, I have tried searching for him, but I've never been close to finding him. Walking down the stairs, I thought about where Spencer could be. I have learned to ignore the pain of loneliness whenever I thought of him, but I have never gotten over the fact that he could still be out there, surviving on his own. I went to the fruit basket in the kitchen and took an apple, taking a bite out of it, making a crunch sound. I picked my bag up and walked out of the house, making sure to lock the door behind me. When I stepped on the school ground, whispers and stares erupted everywhere. As I walked through, people were pointing fingers and whispering to one another. How did I become the center of attention? I looked around nervously, and quickly went into the school building. But it was worse. Everyone was looking at me, more stared and gossiped. I made my way to my locker, not making eye contact with anyone. Suddenly, there was a loud laugh near my locker. My head snapped to the sound and I saw Brandon with his head tilted back, laughing heartily. I scanned his group and my eyes landed on Ashton, who was smiling at me. I quickly looked away when the memories of yesterday came running through my head. I picked my books and headed for homeroom. Ashton didn't bother me in any of the classes, but I was still getting stares. Some people had came up to me and said things like, I never thought I'd see anyone reject Ashton Slade. Lay off of him, bitch. H.E.S. mine. You rejected a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Why would you do that? You are so lucky, Rai. You could have been his first girlfriend. It's obvious he has a crush on you. I did not comment on what any of them said. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. The last one did make me think. First girlfriend. Does that mean he well? He does not look like the one-night stand kind of guy. But looks can be deceiving. I think he just wanted to make me think he has a crush on me so he can sleep with me. I bet Aaron is his usual bed warmer. Thinking of Aaron touching him gets my boiling with jealousy. I walked to the cafeteria and opened the doors. Once my presence was noticed, all the conversations stopped. Everyone was staring at me as I shifted in comfortably. I heard a chair being pulled back and footsteps walking in my direction. Ashton grabbed my arm tightly, but not too tight to hurt me. "Come on, Riley. I have to ask you something." He tugged on my arm. What? No, didn't I say to leave me alone? Let go of me. I struggled against his hold, but he kept a firm grip on me. "If you don't stop struggling, I'll throw you over my back," he threatened. I continued struggling. Suddenly, strong hands held my waist and lifted me over Ashton's shoulders. I let out a startled shriek and hit his back, but he brushed me off like I was just an irritating itch. He pushed open the cafeteria doors and walked down the hallway, ignoring my cries of protest. Finally, a light bulb went off in my head. I smiled heavily and called over his shoulder. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "I have to pee." No, I'm serious. I have to pee, or I'll have to pee on you." He sighed and set me down, giving me a gentle push at the small of my back. "Go pee. I'll be waiting here." I walked around the corner, making sure he wasn't following me, then sprinting away. He must have heard my shoes smack the floor, because the next thing I know, he was chasing me around school. I began laughing because of how much fun I was having in so many years. Ashton was trying to catch me. I could tell he was jogging slowly. It was like he could do this forever. But being the out-of-shape human I am, I had to stop to catch my breath. Ashton slowed to a stop beside me, not breathing hard, but normally. It was like he never ran around the school. He must be really fit. "You done running?" Ashton asked, amused at my labored breathing. I gasped. "Come on, let's go outside." He took my hand and gave it a tug. I obediently walked beside him, noticing that he has not let my hand go. Not that I'm complaining. We walked out the front doors, still holding hands. We walked in comfortable silence until I decided to break it. "So, what did you want to ask me?" I questioned nervously, my fingers fidgeting at my sides. "Why can't we be friends?" Ashton said, looking down at me. Remembering the reason, I yanked my hand out of his grasp, ignoring the cold feeling, and took a step away from him. He looked at me strangely and took a step towards me, and I took a step back. A flash of hurt crossed his eyes before it was gone. I desperately looked for an escape route, but found nothing I can run to except the forest. I just don't have time for friends or relationships. My life is really complicated, and I don't want you to be tangled in it," I said softly. A sudden flash was caught at the corner of my eye. I turned to it and saw a man. He is tall and has blonde hair. I wasn't close enough to see his facial features, but from what I could tell, he was about 17. He raised a hand and gestured for me to come to him. My eyes furrowed. Who is he? I looked at Ashton, who was looking at the ground with a frustrated look on his face. "Look, I'll see you around. Now I have to go see something." I patted his arm and jogged to the forest, where the boy was still standing with a frown on his face. When I looked back, I saw Ashton looking at me, then at the boy, and hesitantly walked away. I turned to Blondie. "Who are you?" His green eyes looked at me in surprise. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." I raised my eyebrows at him and repeated, "Who are you?" "I am Justin, your spy." I tilted my head to the side, like the guy who keeps my father updated with what I do. "Precisely," Justin said proudly. "Now I'm really confused. If you're my spy, what were you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be spying on me, not talking to me?" Justin thought about it for a while. "Yes, but your father just called me and said something about a change of plans. Now I'm your personal bodyguard." My jaw dropped. "What?" Justin groaned. "Tired. Your father called me Anne. I heard what you said the first time." "Blondie. But what do you mean personal bodyguard?" I snapped. "I have a name, you know," he mumbled. "I mean, I will be attending your school to keep you away from that boy, anyone else for that matter." My mouth dropped open again. "Justin will be following me everywhere." I looked at Justin, who was observing me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Does that mean you will also protect me? If I have to? Yes, this is creepy and awesome at the same time. Yes, it is quite awesome. But don't get into much trouble. I won't be able to save you from your dad, so it'd be kind of like your elder brother number 2. I've always wanted a younger sister. Justin mumbled. I had a feeling that I would really like Justin even though he is my spy. So when do you start school?